one thing I want to cover today is another Git topic that you will see on a day-to-day at work. You guys know in our project, for the Terraform project, we are using Git, where that is where we are storing our Terraform scripts. And once you create your Git repository, you have branch in there. So if you are looking in your account now, last week, we created 2 branch for the project we are working on, where I created dev branch and prod branch. But when you are watching the playback of this video, even if in your repository you only have the main branch, that is fine. You will still be able to follow along. So at work, one thing I want you to keep in mind is your company will have repository where they've stored all the scripts for Terraform, and all the codes for the application they are working on. So in this case, I'll just say all the scripts for the Terraform, because I think when I say code, you guys get scared. I feel like as a cloud engineer, more of what we do is we script things. We don't write the application code, but we script things. So when I say code, I mean script. So your company will have a repository where they have stored all the scripts for the projects they are working on, right? And one thing I want you guys to know is that for each repository, there will be branch. So here, this is where you will see all the branch in GitHub, right? And the branch is just whatever name your company has chosen to call them. In this repository that I called Nest App, I have 2 branches, dev and prod. But if you are working in yours, maybe you haven't created different branch, you only have main, that is fine. What I want you to understand is look up something that is called Git branching. So Git branching is very simple to understand. It is something like this. How do I make this bigger? Okay. So Git branching is something simple like this, right? So this master represents the main branch that your company has stored their code. So what happens is when they've assigned you a task, for example, let's say they want you to change something on the Terraform code, right? So what you would do is first you will clone the repository on your computer. After you've cloned the repository on your computer, the next thing you are going to do is you won't make your change on that master branch. So for example, let's say this dev branch, they want me to change something in it. The first thing I'm going to do is clone it on my computer. So in this image, think of this master as the dev. The name doesn't really matter. So once you've cloned it on your computer, you have to make changes on it, right? But you are not going to make changes on the master branch you cloned on your computer. What you have to do is you have to create your own branch. That is why you are seeing this branching off here, right? You create your own branch. You pretty much create your own branch from the master branch, and it goes here. It's just parallel. Think of it, it is parallel to this master branch. Just like someone else can clone this master branch and they will work on their work here. So everything you are doing is parallel to this branch. So once you clone it, you create your own branch, then you make your changes on the branch. Once you make your changes, you commit the changes into your GitHub repository and you create what is called a pull request. Once you create the pull request, someone on your team will review it. If everything looks good and the work you've completed it the way they want, then they will merge it back into the master. So what that means is, let's say you are trying to make a change, but that change hasn't been tested. Sometimes you may test the change and you may find out an error. There's an error in it, right? But so that we don't mess up the branch that we already know works, that is why we will create a separate branch for you to make your changes, test it, and if everything works, then we will merge it to the master branch. So that's how it works. And when you are making your change here, someone else may have cloned this repository on their computer, create a branch here, and make their changes too. So the main thing I want to cover today is you should understand that would be one of your day-to-day workflow. You will be creating pull requests every day. So when a task is assigned to you, don't make the change on the branch you cloned. Create your own branch, make the change on your own branch, then create a pull request to match the change to your master branch. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any question?
Hi, Aziz.
Hello.
Hi, thank you very much for that knowledge. But the point here is, I understand the concept with creating a new branch, the need for that concept. But do you have a video here that shows us how to do that?
Yes, I'll work on that next.
Oh, okay.
I'll
That's
walk you through that next.
all
Okay.
right. Thank you very
Good
much.
I
question.
think there's a video on YouTube.
Yes, there's also a video on YouTube, but for today's class, we'll also do a demo on it. So,
All right, that's fine.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So let's say in this Terraform project, in the dev branch, I have an auto-scaling group. And in this auto-scaling group file, they want me to change the auto-scaling group size, the max size, and the minimum size from 2 to 4 and from 1 to 2, right? So this is just a random request, right? So if you don't know what this means, don't worry about it. The main thing I'm trying to explain is in this file, they want me to change this number to 4 and this number to 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the repository. Once you are in the repository, you are going to clone the repository on your computer. To clone it, I'm going to select code and I'm going to copy the SSH address here by clicking this box because I've set up my SSH to clone this repository. And in the last class, we covered how to set up your SSH key in GitHub to clone your repository. So this class is a continuation of the last demo we did. So once you copy the address of that repository, open your terminal and browse to whatever directory you want to clone the repository on your computer. Since I already have this repository on my desktop, I'm going to clone it in a different directory, which is this directory that I'm currently in is my home directory. I'll clone it in here. So I'll type git clone and paste that address there and press enter. And I've successfully cloned that repository on my computer. If I go in my home directory, I have a lot of stuff in my home directory now. So if I type ls, it should be somewhere in here. It is right here. Also to show you, remember I said a home directory on your computer, if you are working on a Windows computer, it will be in your C drive, users, whatever your name is set on the folder. And once you select it, this is your home directory. So once I come in here, I should see that repository I just cloned. It is right here. So that is that. That's the first thing you have to do, clone the repository on your computer. Please also understand that when I cloned this repository, I was in the dev branch. That is where the request was asked to make the change. So I cloned the dev branch and I'm trying to make the change in the code in the dev branch. Once you've cloned the repository on your computer, you can see it here. The next thing I'm going to do is cd into that repository. So I'll type cd and the name of the repository. It is called next. When you are typing something in Linux or in PowerShell, when you type part of the name, if you press the tab key, if that name is in that directory, it would auto-complete it for you. So this is how you guys can move fast when you are trying to type a name of a directory you are trying to change into. So instead of typing this full name, just type NEST. If that directory is in there and you press the tab key, it will auto-complete it for you. So I'm going to cd into it and press enter. So now I am in that repository I cloned on my computer. So here, the first thing you have to do is, it's always good to get in a habit of typing git branch so you are sure which branch you are on. So if you type git branch, right, it will tell you what branch you are on. And this is the branch I want to make the change on, the dev branch. Once you type git branch, you'll be able to know what branch you are in, and I'm in the dev branch. The next thing you should do is also get in a habit of typing git pull. Sometimes you may have cloned the repository on your computer, right? But remember that I said that other people may also be cloning the same repository and pushing their work into the master when they have created their own pull request and it has been approved. So let's say 30 minutes, an hour, a day has passed from when clone the repository. It is a good habit to type git pull. And what that would do is if someone has pushed an update into the master that you cloned on your computer, in this case, I mean the dev branch. If someone has pushed an update into that dev branch, you'll be able to pull their update into your local repository. You can see after I type git pull, it said that my branch is up to date. So now, once you are sure that your branch is up to date, what we are going to do is create our own branch from this dev branch. And that branch is what you will make your changes on. To create your own branch from this dev branch, you are going to type git checkout. Once you type git checkout, then you add a space and you add -b. That B stands for branch. Then add another space. Then you give your branch a name. And for the branch name, I'm just going to type update autoscaling group. I'll type ASG for autoscaling group. So remember, the command is git checkout branch. -b for branch, and you type the name of the branch. So once you type that, press enter, and you can see it has created the new branch and switched to that branch. So now if you type git branch again, you can see now I have two local branch, and the branch that I'm currently on is my update auto-scaling group. Whether you are working in Windows computer or Mac, once you are in the repository you cloned on your computer and you have created your branch, this is what I always do from here. So in PowerShell, to open this folder with this branch in Visual Studio Code, you are going to type code space dot. So this works on Mac and this also works on Windows PowerShell. So you type, make sure you are in the folder you want to open in Visual Studio Code. You can see this is the folder I want to open in Visual Studio Code. And the current branch I am on is the branch I created. So whether you are working on a Windows computer, and in Windows, I use PowerShell. I don't think it works in the regular command prompt in Windows. You have to use PowerShell. And on your Mac computer, the same command works. So type code space dot and press enter. There you go. And you can see it has opened that folder in Visual Studio Code. You can see the branch I am on is update ASG, and these are all the application code. So I was asked to update some values in the auto-scaling group file, and this is the auto-scaling group file. Now that you are on your branch, you can make your changes here. So in the auto-scaling group file, I'm going to open it, then you make your changes where they've asked you to make your change. So here they asked me to change this to 4 and change this to 2. Once you've made your change, you are going to save your file. Then once you've saved it, you will get the source control update that is telling you that you've made a change here. So under source control in Visual Studio Code, any file you see in here, if you select it, it would split the screen for you. On the left side where you have the red, it is showing you what the value was before. And on the right side, it is showing you what you change it to. So here, it is telling you that in this file, this section of this file has been updated. And previously it was 2, you change it to 4. And previously it was 1, you change it to 2. Before I push my update to the GitHub repository, I always check my source control changes to make sure that the changes are correct. So once you review it here, you can now push your update to your GitHub repository. So to push our update to our GitHub repository, in Visual Studio Code here, I'm just going to type a commit message. The commit message can be anything, and it is a short description of what you did. So here, I'm going to type updated ASG file. Once I type my description, I'm going to click commit. And once I commit that change, I'm going to click publish branch, or sometimes you will see sync changes here to push it to your GitHub repository. And there I've pushed that update to my GitHub repository. Once you've pushed it, now you are going to go into your GitHub account. So in the GitHub account here, I'm going to click refresh. And any update you push into your GitHub account, when you go into the repository, it would show you a preview here telling you you've pushed a latest commit that you should create a pull request for it. I like this because now here I can just create a pull request. But in case you don't see this, once you push any change into your GitHub repository, to create a pull request, you will see pull request up here. So select pull request here. So whether you select this or this, it will take you into the same thing. Here, I'm going to click new pull request. So on this page, what you want to do is you can see, pay attention to this arrow, and it is always the same way on every, what's the word I'm looking for? So you know how we have Bitbucket, GitHub, and what's the other one? GitLab, right? It doesn't matter which service you are using, it is the same way. So what this is saying is that here we are going to select the branch that I made my changes on, right? So what this is saying is that I want to take the changes in this branch, right? And I want to merge it into this branch. So that's why you see this arrow is pointing from this to this. So that's how you should always read it. And it is the same on all those services. Remember, you want to take the changes you made in your branch, right? Which is this arrow, and you are pointing it to whatever branch you want to merge it to. In this case, I want to merge it into the dev branch. So here I'll select dev. So that's how that works. And at your company, they will have additional things there where you have to type a brief description of what you did. But since we are working in our own account, we don't have those things set up. But the main thing you have to do is just make sure you are merging into the right branch. Then once you select that, it will also show you the changes here. So we can see these are the changes that was made. And once you review everything, you just click create pull request, right? Then here, I'm going to click create pull request. Okay, so I've created that pull request. Then once you create the pull request, the email is going to be sent to people on your team that has authorization to approve it. You see here, we have reviewers. The reviewers that has been assigned to approve pull request on your team, their name will show up here. And they will also receive an email when you create a pull request. They will review it. In case you are one of the reviewers that is assigned to review pull request, when you get an email to review a pull request, remember if you come into the repository and you select pull request, you will see all the pull requests that are under that repository. You see, I've left that other page. So let's say I come into my repository here and I select pull request. You will see all the pull requests that are under that repository. This is the one I just created. If this is the pull request you are asked to review, select it, right? Then you can see the commit that was made and you see the name of the person that made the commit. What is always helpful is the files changed. So here, if you select this, you'll be able to see what the file looked like before and what it was changed to. You can see here in the red, this is what it looks like before, and this is what they are changing it to. So I always start from the files change, and that just helps me review it faster. Sometimes they may change multiple files. What I should have done is change multiple files. If multiple files was changed, you will see all those files here, and it will be the same thing here. It will tell you what it was before and what it was changed to. And in case you have multiple files, to help you sort through those files as you are reviewing them, you can click this box to say view, and that will just close it for you. So that way, you know you have viewed that file. All it is doing is dropping this. So if you click this arrow, you can still see it, or you can uncheck this and it will show up again. So this is for when you are reviewing a pull request. So under conversations, if you have a comment you want to send to the person, change this is not right, or whatever your comment is, you can add your comment under conversations, right? Let's say you've reviewed it and everything works, or the manager on your team has reviewed it and everything works. They will approve it. Then once they approve it, you will get this green box that is allowing you to merge the pull request. The first time you create the pull request, this will not be green. In our account, we don't have all those branch rules set now to prevent from merging to main. That's why this is automatically green. But at your company, you won't be able to merge until someone approves it. So let's say someone has approved it, then this turns to green. To merge it, you click merge pull request, and all you have to do is click confirm merge. And once you merge it, now it has merged the changes from your branch into the main. So if we go back into that repository, remember we are in the dev branch, and if we go into that auto scaling group file, scroll down here, you can see the change has been merged into that branch. This is one of the day-to-day things you will be doing. And I'm saying this, remember this, even if your company don't have a policy of creating pull requests, don't ever make change on the main branch. Anytime they ask you to make a change in a file in your repository, clone that repository on your computer, create your own branch, make your changes on that branch. And the reason why you should do that is because if you run into any issues while you are trying to make the change, you don't want to mess up the code that you guys already have in that branch that you know that code works. You don't want to mess it up. So it is a perfect habit to always create your own branch. Even if your company don't have a policy of creating branch, I'm telling you to always make your own change on your own branch and merge it to the main branch. So this is how it works. Does anyone have any question?
Yeah, I do. So what happened to the branch you created for yourself before merging? Is it gonna be deleted by the company, or it's gonna be there?
Yes, most likely. Let me check in our project, right? In our project, the branch is there, so we can delete it, right? You can delete the branch once you are done with it. But at your company, as part of their GitHub repository settings, when you merge it, there's also an option there to delete that branch after you merge it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe if you want to, it's been a while since I deleted a branch manually, but I believe if you want to delete it, if you come to branch here, you can see this branch here, and you can delete it by clicking this button here to delete. So if you want to delete it, you can delete it from here. But at your company, once you merge it, there will also be an option to it depends on how your company set up their repository. Some set it up to delete the branch after you've merged it, and some set it up to have the option to delete it. So that is what I want to cover on pull request. Does anyone have any question?
I think I also wanted to add that even in our own personal project, we should probably get the habit of doing it like you just taught us, so that we don't just assume because it's our project, we should be making changes in the main branch. We should be probably creating a separate branch and, fix the changes so that we get into that habit. I think that's a good one.
Exactly. Yeah. So in your project now, try to also work with pull requests. Even though it's your project, create pull requests, the changes you are pushing into your GitHub repository, review those pull requests and merge it into the main. So just to get in a habit of doing that, because this is day-to-day at work. This is one of those things that I would say don't ever forget. This is what you'll be doing on a day-to-day. For your projects, if you want to restrict your branch so that anytime you push a change, it forces you to create a pull request for it, I believe how you do it is you can come to that repository and you select settings, branches. Once you are on branches, it is better to add it from here. So I'll click add branch protection rule. Okay, this is where I want to be. So once you are here, branch name pattern, this is the name of the branch you want to add the rule set for. So remember, one of my branch is dev. So I'll type dev. So if in your repository, your branch is still named main, that is what you will type here, is the exact name of that branch. Then here, these are some of the settings you can set on that branch to prevent pull requests. You can see here, it says require a pull request before merging. So we'll check that. And also here it says require approvals. So this is where someone would have to approve your pull request before you merge it. And here you can also see all the other things you can check here. So most likely when your company creates the rule on their branch, they will have majority of this checked, which will prevent you from just merging into the master. But for in your project, you can check this, which says require a pull request before merging and requires approval. So we're going to select this and click create, and it is asking for my password. So I've created that rule set on the branch dev. So let me go back to my local repository again. Remember, I've already cloned this repository on my computer. And if I type git branch, I'm on the branch, the last branch that I made my changes on. So remember I said people are always pushing updates into the master branch as you are working on it. And we've pushed an update into dev. So now dev is the latest update, right? So what you have to do is first, before I create the new branch where I'm going to make the next change on, I'm going to go back to my dev branch. To go back to your dev branch, you type git checkout and the name of the branch you want to switch to. So since here the branch name is dev, I'm going to type dev. One thing I want to point out is remember the difference between this git checkout and this git checkout. So here when we have git checkout -b and the name of the branch, that is if you are creating a new branch, then you specify -b. But if you already have the branch and you are trying to switch to it, you don't have to specify the -b. So remember that this is when you are creating a new branch. This is when you are trying to switch to an existing branch. So once you type your command, press enter. You see I've switched to the dev branch. To see that you are in the dev branch, you can either open it in Visual Studio Code. So if you type code dot, you can see now I'm in the dev branch. I'll just close this. You can see I'm in the dev branch. And if I go back to the terminal, if you also type git branch, you can see I'm on the dev branch. Remember, once you are on the dev branch, one of the things you should always type before you create your branch is, remember I told you you have to do git pull, or you can also type git status. Git status just lets you know that whether your branch is up to date, right? And yeah, your working tree is up to date, but then remember we push an update to this dev branch. So here you have to type git pull to pull that changes to your local. So if you type git pull, you can see I made changes to the autoscaling group file, and it has pulled that change to my local repository. So now that your dev branch is up to date, because what happens is, let's say someone push an update to this dev branch and you don't run git pull. When you create another branch from this dev branch, you will be creating that branch from whatever state this dev branch was in when you create that branch. Does that make sense? Mainly, anytime before you create another branch, always type git pull. And when you type git pull, you want to see already up to date before you create a new branch. So now that I've pulled it, I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to type git checkout. Remember, I'm creating a new branch, so I'm going to type -b and the name of the branch. I'm going to type update another. So I'll just type the name of the branch. So remember, it's git checkout -b and the name of the branch. Press enter. So I've created that branch. To open this folder in Visual Studio Code, we are going to type code space dot and press enter. And you can see I've opened it in Visual Studio Code, and you can see what branch I'm in. Now, in this branch, let me change something in this branch. So I'm going to make another changes on the autoscaling group because that is the easiest one. So here, I'm just going to change this value from 4 to 9, and I'll change this to 5. Then I'm going to save it. Once you save it, under source control, you can review it here. So if you scroll down, you can see the file was previously 4 and 2. We changed it to 9 and 5. Then let's push our update to our GitHub repository. I'm just going to type updated ASG file. Once you type your commit message, click commit. And once you commit your changes, click publish to branch. Then I've pushed it into the GitHub repository. I'm going to go into my GitHub account. So here, when you come to that repository, you can see anytime you push a commit into that repository, it will show you this preview, and you can just create a pull request from here. Or you can click create pull request. If this is showing for you, remember, if you click pull request here and click this, it will take you to the same place. So I'll just click compare and pull request. This is the name it is going to give the pull request. So once you've given it a name, it always wants to start with whatever you typed in your commit, but you can always change it. And here you can type your description of data ASG file. Obviously your description will be much descriptive than this, but for example, you type the name, description, and another thing you want to pay attention to is, and I almost forgot, is here. Make sure you are selecting the branch you made the changes on, right? And it is pointing to the branch you want to merge to. In this case, it is dev. So make sure you've checked here and you are merging into the right branch. Once you have added your name, description, click create pull request. And now you see what I was talking about. Because I've set a rule on that branch, dev, which is exactly how it would be at your company. Your company would have set some rules on the branch that prevent you from merging any change into it without those changes being approved. So now you can see that the option to merge it here is grayed out, and it is saying it requires at least one approval before you can merge it. So someone on your team will get an email, they will approve it. If you are working on your project and you have to approve it, so let's say if I created the pull request, if I'm also allowed to approve it, I'll go to pull request, select the pull request here, and here, let's go to file change. And once you are on files change, I believe here, if you select this drop down, well, because I created the pull request, I can't approve it. But the gist of it is, this is how it would be at your company. Since I created the pull request, I can approve my own work. So that is why I'm running into this issue. The main thing here is when you guys are working on your projects and you are getting into a habit of creating pull requests, don't set a rule on your branch because you can't approve your own work. The main thing I want to show you on the pull request is when you create a pull request at work, this is what it will look like. Once you create your pull request, it will be blocked, and whoever the reviewers on your team are, they will show up here. One of them will approve it. Then once they have approved it, that's when you'll be able to merge your pull request. Then this changed to green, which was what it looks like previously when I merged the pull request before I created the rule on the branch. So when you are working on your project, don't create a rule on the branch because you can't approve your own work. That is the issue I'm having here. That's why I can't approve it. But when you are approving someone's work, right here, this is where you say it. Once you review it and everything is fine, you come here, check the approve button and click submit. Then the person will be able to come into that pull request here and they will be able to match their pull request. So that is the main thing I wanted to show you guys today.